How you doing, YouTube? It's Wolf Mill Development. This is my 402nd weekly update. And how do I put it? This week was up and down. In some regards, I hit some numbers that I had planned on hitting, and then even went a little bit further, and it was a huge sort of ego boost for me. Specifically on yoke, I hit some numbers on the gym yoke that I've never actually hit before. And the yoke at our gym is just, it's a really rough one. Basically anything I can run on that, I know I can put 100 pounds on any other yoke and I can probably get it for the same speed. It's very unstable, as well as the cross member is only 2.5 inch instead of 3. And you do notice that in terms of placement and how it feels on your back. And then it's very wobbly and unstable too. And that's not bad things. I wouldn't trade it for anything. I'm happy that most of the equipment I train on is more challenging than the things I encounter in competition. It's sort of along the lines of if you did every single thing you did with just a sandbag, you'd probably get a much better base of strength through that than, say, using calibrated plates and stuff like that. In terms of, like, what's the word I'm looking for? True strength is not really the word, but it's the idea I'm going for. It's the difference in why I pick strongman versus powerlifting. Powerlifting is about moving the most weight, not necessarily about who's strongest. And I know that might sound counterintuitive, but I've seen guys that I know are stronger lose simply because the other person just knew how to use their body mechanics a little bit better, that sort of thing. Whereas in strongman, usually the strongest person wins. It's usually just how it goes. Yeah, there's, this and that, sometimes bad calls, bad placements, on certain events, you might have to go first or second, that kind of thing. But generally speaking, the strongest person usually wins no matter what in the strongman, which is nice. We're being contested over 4 to 5 different events, usually 4 to 5 different disciplines, and you generally find the complete package, and you can only cheat your way through so much, and usually if the other person's stronger and they don't have to cheat their way through a movement, they're usually going to be faster or better at it, It's that whole, like, technique versus just being strong sort of thing. Where I think in powerlifting, technique will get you a lot further in terms of being able to move more weight than somebody who's just raw strength but not quite as refined. They might not move as much weight, but in reality they probably are stronger. And it's hard to kind of wrap your mind around it unless you do it. But it's an interesting concept. But anyway, my point goes back to most of the equipment I train on is harder to use than what I encounter in competition. Everything from the stones we use, to the farmers we use, to the yoke, the dumbbell, the log, all of it is harder than usually what I'll encounter. For instance, I've never hit a 200 log in the gym, ever. But I hit it in comp. You know what I mean? Because the log I was using in comp was actually better balanced, had handles that were more suited towards me. So yeah, you know what I mean? Same thing on farmers. The farmers we use, they're about a 3.5 inch lower pick than most farmers I encounter. Because ours are actually 9 inch versus a lot of farmers start around 12 to 13. They're also super long, our farmers, way longer than most of the ones I ever encountered during a comp, especially compared to like Bartow's ones. The handles are much more slick than basically any pair I've ever encountered in a competition. And then, let's say about the yoke, and then our dumbbell is a little bit shorter and smaller than most of the ones I've ever seen used other places. But that's good, it kind of forces you to be stronger, and the only hard part or challenging part about that is you can't get too used to doing it a certain way, because at the comp you're going to have to just rely on your brute strength to some extent. And I think that's what I'm getting back to. Technique's great, but you encounter every dumbbell feels a little bit different. Every circus dumbbell, every yoke feels just a little bit different. Every pair of farmers feels a little different. Every stone feels different. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where you can get pretty far with technique and strongman, but at some point, if you're not strong, you're just not going to be able to keep up. So yeah, all that being said, hit some PR numbers on the yoke earlier in the week, and then Tuesday just had a really sick just pump sesh. Got the arms all big and broed out, and the shoulders a little bit. Wednesday was off. Thursday just did some light, honestly, from the floor deadlifts. I think the heaviest we went was like 380 something. Just some singles and then some rows. It was a rough day. We're both a little burned out, my training partner and I. And then come Friday, which was today, had the last dumbbell session. Didn't exactly go the way I wanted it to go. I mean, I still hit 90% of the numbers I wanted to hit, but then just failed in places that I really would have liked to have hit. Hit certain numbers, and it just wasn't there today. Just could have been a bunch of things. Poor sleep last night, because definitely I did not sleep well last night, and then stress, the body, all that kind of stuff. It's there's so many factors. So I'm not. I do my best not to dwell on it. In the moment it sucks, but here I am, just a few minutes removed from it, maybe an hour removed from the failure, and it's it's not like I've forgotten, but it doesn't bother me quite as much. I'm not cursing and throwing my belt around. But I've had a lot more good dumbbell sessions this training cycle, and I've hit PRs this entire time. I would have liked to have had a better day, or not to have been as challenging, but I did still get work in. I still got good work in, and so I'm not that disappointed with it. And now it's just time to recover and then cut a little bit of weight. I've been walking around 180. I probably average 185. I'm about 186 at night and I'm 184 in the morning, so just about 185, which means I've just got 10 pounds to drop. And that's been my average for the last 2 weeks, so that's a very consistent weight for me. Definitely the strongest I've ever been at this body weight. And so yeah, just 10 pounds, because it's only 10 pounds and I know I'm truly only have to lose 10 pounds, that's a pretty easy cut, honestly, after you've done 20 in 4 days. That's a pretty easy cut, so I'll probably have a relatively normal diet up until probably around Tuesday. Where I'll finally cut carbs, and then I'll probably still be eating on Wednesday, and even a little bit on Thursday, and then reducing the water intake probably Wednesday down to nothing, probably Thursday, and I anticipate just being able to drop that 10 pounds pretty easy, and then if I have to sweat it out, it'll probably only be 2 to 3 pounds of actually having to sweat anything out. Yeah, I've never actually had to do only a 10-pound cut, which is kind of exciting. That's how stupid some of these cuts I've done are, where it's like 10 pounds makes me happy and excited. Like, oh, it's only 10 pounds. That's nothing. But it's after that 20, man, nothing really scares me anymore after cutting that 20 in 4 days. So yeah, I'm looking forward to just a nice recovery week. I'll be in the gym on Monday and Tuesday, but it's going to be all really, really light. Just going through the movements. And then Wednesday and Thursday, I won't even go into the gym because I can't be tempted like that. And I might just kind of just try to get some walks in, some light, just tiny little 10-pound band work. Going through some motions, like good mornings and squats and stuff like that, and stretching out the triceps, stretching out the shoulder, and just trying to get blood into the body and keep it moving, which becomes more and more important as we get closer to Friday, because Friday you don't want to do it too much, because you want to be as fresh as you can, and The way my back feels doesn't necessarily hurt. It's just kind of sore. Back, shoulder, everything feels sore. So I'm like, cool. I'll have a week and at least 4 days of really good nutrition and hydration to get everything back to where it needs to be before I then starve it. And then that Friday with the refeed, that'll be a fun one too. So yeah, I'll probably be going down to West Palm on Thursday. Probably Thursday evening. It depends on where I am with my water, with my weight. I don't like to leave the house to drive down until I've gotten to where I need to be in terms of weight. Just because I don't want to have to stress about trying to find a sauna or going out and sweating in my truck, that kind of thing, while I'm down there. I want to be able to handle it all here at home, and then God forbid something goes wrong, I'm here and I'm at least close to somebody who might come and check on me at some point, So, so yeah, I'm looking forward to the next week off. Looking forward to getting to the show. And I'm looking forward to having about 2 months off until my next show, which will be a team comp in September, which is very exciting too. I've always wanted to do a teams competition. And, having those 2 months to actually kind of sit around and actually get stronger, while still... The good news is this comp has a couple movements that I really do want to work on a lot more. For instance, there's a sandbag back and forth over a bar, which for the weight class I'm doing, the lightweights, it's only like 135 pounds. I think. And then I believe we have like a 150 or something at the gym, so I would like to be able to do that for the whole minute and a half and just one motion it every single time over that bar, basically never stopping and just throwing it, running around, throwing it, running around, throwing it. That's my plan. I'd like to be able to do that with like the 170 we have at the gym. I think that would be cool. And that would work on my conditioning a little bit more, which does need just a touch more work. I row a lot, so I do okay with conditioning, but I'd really like to be able to do to kind of go for a whole minute and a half on an event. I think that would be super beneficial for me, and it would also help my stones too, because my extension's definitely the weak spot on me. So I may even do it where I do the full minute and a half just back and forth till I die, and then the following week just roll-ups with the sandbag just to work on that triple extension of the stone, which is definitely my weak point. So there's some events in that show that I can use to continue to get better at other shows. And that's where I'm at with that right now. So I'm looking forward to it. If you decide to compete and you have any sort of competition coming up, there's a very fine line between doing too little and too much that week leading into the comp. The most important thing to remember is it's too late to get stronger. You're not going to be getting any stronger even these last 2 weeks. These last 2 weeks are for those last minute touch-ups on technique, your technique for particular events, and sort of priming your CNS to be ready for heavy work. You're not going to actually get any stronger in these last 2 weeks, and then that last week especially, there's no real point to lift heavy. Go through the motions if you want. That'll be beneficial. But even then, you don't want to do too much. But then you don't want to sit around either, because sitting around is not good either. So you'll have to figure out what works best for you. I have an idea of what works well for me in terms of towing that line, and that's what I intend to do next week. So don't be afraid to take a whole week off if that's what works for you, and at the same time, don't be afraid to do a little bit of movement if that's what works for you. Yeah. And if you don't, if you do, yeah, I guess if you don't. If you are afraid, then what's your excuse?